Natalie Merchant and 10,000 Maniacs were like songs of my youth. I remember like through high school and college, just they just made me so happy. And so again, when thinking about a song, what better song to remember who we are, right? It was the lyrics themselves. I am the one that God created is essentially what she's saying, right? One of my favorite lines actually in the song is, this really speaks to me, especially right now with all the stuff that is happening around us in our worlds. I feel like there's so many exciting changes, is what I'll say, coming up. And so one of the lyrics in this song says, they say I must be one of the people see me as a challenge to your balance. I'm over your heads, how I confound you and astound you. That really speaks to me. Because how many times do we get stuck thinking that, I can't do this because I'm going to be challenging what people think about me. You know, we all have these projections that we have about people all the time. And when we sort of move out of our own comfort zone, we sort of tend to move out of other people's comfort zones about us, right? And then that brings about its own challenges, I think. And so when we remember that it is okay to do that because people will catch up and remember who you are, it's okay to confound and astound because you're being true to who you are. So that lyric for me personally was one of the big ones. And of course, you know, they say I must be one of wonders, God's own creation. They say, I say, you say, we are all one of God's creations because we are that very energy which created. We are the stars. We are the grains of sand everywhere. And so this song in particular really reminded me of that. So thank you again for singing that. I want to ask you all a question. Define prosperity? Anybody? Just throw out answers. What does prosperity mean? Freedom. I hear freedom. What else? Happiness. Possibility. Choices. Peace of mind. Life. The light of the soul. I love that. That is prosperity. And you at home can shout out your own answers as well. What is prosperity? And so all of these things, the light of the soul, freedom, choice, all of it, adventure, all of it is prosperity and so much more. We define prosperity by also how we believe prosperity is defining us. And the truth is, going back to the four corners of the table, there's so much to prosperity than just this sense. When we think of prosperity, it's usually just that one leg of the table, right? The wealth part that we talked about. When I said that somebody else is in charge, basically, of your financial freedom. And that is not, we know that's not true, right? We know that it is always within us. But how do we go out and practice that? How do we let go and release so that we know that that net is actually there without us even seeing it? So when I ask you to define what prosperity is, now I invite you to think about what would prosperity think about you? Right? Oh. I mean, or you're going, yeah, that's right. That's what prosperity thinks about me. But when you turn that question around and flip it around, then you're really asked to think about what you really think about prosperity. Because if whatever you think prosperity thinks about you is actually what you think about prosperity, right? Because prosperity, just like everything else, it just is. Prosperity is all of it. Prosperity is all around us. And you know how we know? Because all we have to do is look at nature. You look at nature and you see the abundance of grains of sand, of stars in the sky, right? There's an abundance surrounding us all the time when we just step out and really look, instead of just staying in our heads, moving around, going into different directions. Mahatma Gandhi said this: truth by nature is self-evident. As soon as you remove the cobwebs of ignorance that surround it, it shines clear. Truth by nature is self-evident. As soon as you remove the cobwebs of ignorance that surround it, it shines clear. And that's what prosperity is too. Like I said, prosperity is around us. It's abundant. And when we remove the cobwebs of not being able to see that the prosperity is all around, just look outside. Look at the sun shining. Look at the trees. It is always around. But when we choose to limit, that's how we define prosperity. Prosperity is, and I'll tell you something else, prosperity is an experience. That's what prosperity is. How do you choose to experience prosperity? Because that's what it is. Now, I just finished, and I believe some of you were also in this course, Marilyn, I know you were too, CPR with Dr. James. And it was really, if you read my blog, one of the things that stuck with me about prosperity, the core prosperity relief that we just finished, was this idea of mixed messages. How we are always sending ourselves mixed messages, either by the environment that's out there, by what people are telling us, but more importantly, what we're telling ourselves. And we don't even realize that we are sort of falling into the trap of these mixed messages, right? In my blog, I wrote about how I had shared, the title of my talk today is From Yo-Yo to No-No. But I also put the parentheses between the K because no now. No now. So I shared with my daughter that this was going to be my talk title. And she was just like, oh my God, Mom, that's so cringy. I can't even believe you're going to do that. And I was like, oh God, is it really? I'm going to have to scrap everything and rethink everything. Oh my God, I can't do that. And then I went, wait, what? I actually like this talk title. Why am I going to change it? Because some teenager told me that I couldn't, that it was cringy. And she used the word cringy. How sad. And I said this to her. I felt so uncool all of a sudden. I'm like, oh, okay, fine. I won't do it. But again, it took me a second to really laugh it off and go, okay, that's her opinion. And by the way, she's thought my other talk, Dive into the Fun Known, was cringy too. So I should know at this point, it's my fault for asking her. If I want to not feel uncool, I need to not ask my kids what they think about my talk title or my attire for that matter. So this idea of mixed messages that we give ourselves, that we give all around, we inadvertently, using that example of my daughter, like I was going to change my whole talk title because I received a message from her telling me that this is cringy, I'm uncool, and it's not going to resonate with anybody. And this being up here and being a part of the service, being a part of this community means a lot to me. Being up here on Sundays, being able to share with community means the world. So the second that I hear something, so what I'm trying to say is this is a vulnerable place for me. And because it's a vulnerable place for me, anytime someone can come attack it from the side, I could buckle, A case in point with my daughter. Until I really came back to the truth of knowing who I am. Does this resonate with me? It does. Can I speak from this place? It does, and I can, because I have evidence of going from yo-yo to no-no, to no now. So as I came back to just, okay, I'm going to do it. I have to remind myself that I can do it. It gave me pause to think about all the mixed messages that we hear from around, even from people that we care. I'm going to move here. I'm going to do that. I'm going to go for a new job. And people very caringly are saying, are you sure you want to do that? Lisa, are you sure you want to start a new website? That's going to be a lot of work. Are you sure you want to go to Uganda again right now in the time that we're in? You'll have a lot of people asking you these questions when in reality, you just know that this is what you want to do. But it's easy for these mixed messages to sort of come in. So on the one hand, what you're telling the universe is, yes, this is what I want to do. But on the other hand, you're listening to these mixed messages, either from yourself or from others telling you not to do it, right? And so it becomes like a mixed message. It becomes a yo-yo. So you get one step in, but then you get pulled back at the same time. I mean, I know we've all experienced this, right? When we really have something big that we're setting out to do, and those mixed messages just sort of come in, it just allows us to sort of buckle into the comfort zone, right? Breaking out of the comfort zone tends to be that, I don't know if I can do it, but I'm here to tell you, you can. And so how I know this, yo-yo to no-no, and talked to you guys about my story, how I lost weight, it came during practitioner, when we were in practitioner courses. And I, for a very long time, probably 10 years, had been yo-yoing in my weight. I'd go up, I'd go down, I'd go up, I'd go down, I'd go up, I'd go down, until I stopped for a second to go, it's not about the diets that I'm doing or the exercises that I'm doing. It's about the consciousness that I'm bringing to it. And my consciousness always said, you're going to lose weight, but it's going to come back. But it's not going to last. But you can't sustain it. And it wasn't until I said to myself, enough. From now on, this is the consciousness that I'm bringing to my health. And when I did that, in spite of people saying, oh, you're in your late 40s, you can't do it. You've done a lot of yo-yo diets. Now you've messed up your body. And all care, by the way, believe it or not, being very caring in saying these things, like don't expect too much. Don't get your expectations too high. And I had to stick with no, I know right now in who I am and the truth of myself and my body and my mind. And I'm going to prove it. As it said in the Bible, prove me now, right? And so that's what I set out to do. And once I did that, there was no turning back. And it's been years. I've never yo-yoed. Not even in the pandemic, which was shocking. Okay, maybe 5 pounds, but that's okay. I'll get rid of them at some point. But what happens with our mixed messages is what I like to say is we can attain what we want, but can we sustain it? Right? That's the trick. A lot of times we can attain what it is that we're setting out to do, but can we sustain it when we're giving it the mixed messages of when's the other shoe going to drop? And these are, things that I'm saying this and you know exactly what I'm saying. These are sayings that we all hear, right? When is the other shoe going to drop? When is it going to go back to the way it was? All of those things that are already programmed into our head that we have to let go of, that we have to release, so that we know that when we attain something, we can sustain it by our consciousness. In CPR, the first time I did CPR, I did it about 10 years ago. And I can't remember what day we were in, but I remember Dr. James said something, and it just, he talked about the passion, the fire, that passion that we have, that fire for things. And for some reason, it made me think of stop, drop, and roll. Remember that? Like people always say, if you're on fire, you got to stop, drop, and roll. And it brought me back to that, even though he was talking about getting that fire lit up inside so that you can move forward and really be grounded in your own passion. I thought of the fire that comes up or the heat that I feel or the nervousness that I get, even sometimes coming up here, like the nervousness that I get from doing something that feels uncomfortable. And I stepped into stop, drop, and roll. So when that scary feeling, that feeling of lack or fear or whatever it is, when I stop for a moment, I drop into the truth, and I roll with that truth, I am unstoppable. And I feel it. And I know that to be true for each and every one of us. Stop. Right then and there. Know the truth. Drop into that truth of remembering who you are and roll with that. Move in a direction so those mixed messages as they come in, they cannot penetrate because you're rolling in the truth. James Clear, who is the author of Atomic Habits, says, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Right? And so what I believe that actually is saying is you don't rise to the level of your expectations, but you fall to the level of your belief systems, of your BS. So when we take that BS from our belief systems and we penetrate it with who we know we are, then we can't fail, can we? Why am I fighting? I don't know. I'm punching those belief systems out. But truly, that resonated with me because I can think and expect so much. But if my belief isn't right matching what I want, then I'm just going to receive what it is that I believe, right? It's true. So clearing your thinking. So I ran across this really great psychiatrist named Tom Saz. He's a Hungarian American Hungarian who's passed, but he had a lot. He fought a lot of the system, and I don't know, Amy, if you've heard of him before, but he fought a lot of the systems of trying to label people. And yes, and one of the things that I ran across that he said was, which I thought was brilliant, was in the animal kingdom, the rule is eat or be eaten. In the human kingdom, it's define or be defined. So how do you define yourself? And how do you define yourself when it comes to all the areas of your life? Your creative expression, your power as being, remembering who you are, your health. How do you express that? How do you define it? I know we can have doctors and financial advisors and our loved ones define it for us. Is that what we want? It's eat or be eaten, is what I say. Tom Saz also says this: clear thinking requires courage rather than intelligence. And isn't that what we teach here? Isn't it what we teach? That, you know, our creative mind, our frontal lobe that has the opportunity to create so much, an abundance of creation. We forget that there's also an abundance of creating lack for ourselves, right? So we have to jump back into clear thinking by knowing who we are, but not just knowing who we are, by actually feeling into it. So what you might believe is not what somebody else might believe, but that's the beauty of it. We're here expressing differently. We're here as individualized expression of this one source. So you can be inspired by somebody, but you should express as yourself. Seeing the molds that others have created is beautiful and wonderful, but also being able to define yourself of who you are, to create your mold in prosperity, that's the challenge. That's the defining moment. That's what we're out to strive, to really bring in that passion within us. So now we're talking about that passion that Dr. James talked about in CPR, that passion for what is possible for us out there. And when we create from that space, again, unstoppable. Last week when Dr. Jim Lockhart was here, he said, and he used a really great quote, which I love: God can only do for you what he can do through you, right? So the only experience you can have is the experience that you're willing to have move through you, the experience that you believe that you can have, the experience that you know that you can set out in this world, the expression of yourself that is yourself, not anybody else's. God can only do to you what he does through you. Now that sounds dualistic, I know, because I am that God. And what do I believe? Again, defining myself, defining my worth, and not allowing somebody else to do it. Because that's the rub, isn't it? Wallace Wattles, in his book, The Science of Getting Rich, also said something very similar. He said, the only service you can render God is to give expression to what he is trying to give the world through you. I'll read that again. The only service you can render God is to give expression to what he is trying to give the world through you. So here's my question. What do you set out to give to the world? What is that energy? What is that love? What is God? What is the universe? What is trying to express through you? And are you on that path of fulfilling it? Are you moving in that direction? And if not, why? What do you need? It starts first in mind and then in action. So asking yourself, defining yourself, moving forth in a direction that you choose to move, to define for yourself, not what's being defined for you. Albert Einstein had a really wonderful quote. He said that ship is safest in the harbor, but it was not meant to stay there. So where are you floating out to, releasing the harbor, letting go of the shore, and moving forward in your own direction? And I'll leave you with this last quote by Rodin. Oh, one last thing. We talked about possibilities, prosperity being possibilities, right? Well, possibilities already exist. The possibility is already out there. It's for you, it's not for you to create a possibility. It's to match the possibility that's out there that is already created. That possibility is already created. Now it's your responsibility to mirror what it is that you would like to experience. That possibility that you want already exists in mind. Now bring it into your consciousness, into your mind, to create it and express it out in the world. And I'll leave you with this final thought from Rodin. I invent nothing. I rediscover. Namaste. Thank you.